It has been a while, my friends, but your favorite duo is back for another Thursday Thoughts. What's up, Kevin? How you doing today?
Well, when's the last time we started off a show and you asked that question and we didn't talk about sports?
I don't know if it's ever happened.
Well, we're not going to start today. So, Sixers are in round 2, right? We're a little nervous about Joel Embiid. Of course, we've got our Eagles with 2 first-round picks. Sorry for our viewers from around the country who have to listen to us talk about the Sixers and Eagles, but too bad. Right now, this is one of the best sports cities in the world here in Philadelphia, and we're
Happy birthday, Tara!
Oh, thank you.
That's why we all love working from home, right? You never know who's going to sneak in the background, and yes, it is my wife Tara's birthday, so wishing her a shout out. Yeah, Zach reminded me that I should probably wish a happy birthday, and I said she'll never see it, but we're going to do it anyway.
And my guy Landon here.
You get all sorts of surprise visitors.
Landon, what's up, buddy?
So there's Landon checking in to say hi.
Landon, I got her.
You got the whole gang here. This is special. This is a special edition. This is what we give you when we deprive you of Thursday Thoughts for 2 months.
And it's very appropriate because Landon loves to go through my wallet and pull the credit cards out. And I know we've got a great conversation today about how to use those credit cards as a business owner and integrate merchant services with your business. So
Indeed.
How's that for a segue that we weren't expecting? Zach, let's kick it off.
Couldn't do it any better. Let's go. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Thursday Thoughts. Super excited to be back. Sorry we've been away for a couple months. It's a good thing. Business has been busy and booming over at Navitas. But we're here, and we're going to be talking a little bit about merchant services before we introduce you to our amazing friend and guest. Kevin, how are you living?
Well, as you said it, we've been busy. So if I look a little tired, I apologize. I think we made it look good for today. You and I both look awake and look like we have, half hour, 45 minutes to dedicate to such an important topic, right? I mean, as website developers and just as, consultants in general, I know we're constantly being asked by our clients, how do we accept credit cards? How should we hook it up? How can we pay you? How can we collect money? Mm-hmm. And, there's so much confusion. So, what a great time to bring in the expert and, answer a few of those questions.
For sure. And of course, if you're watching on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, make sure you are liking, commenting, and sharing. You can also ask questions during the show. We'll try to answer them live. If you give us a question and you're watching it after we've gone live, we're going to send them right over to our awesome guest. And without further ado, our awesome guest is my man, the one and only Jeff Harris. Now, let me tell you a little bit about my guy, Jeff. Jeff is the founder and owner of JMJB Merchant Solutions, a boutique merchant service brokerage with a service-focused approach to credit card processing. Jeff has been working in the space since 2005 and has always had a passion for supporting the local business community. In early 2020, Jeff formed JMJB Merchant Solutions with the sole intention of helping business owners and executives manage the processes and costs associated with accepting credit card payments. Now, Jeff loves connecting his clients with one another and surrounds himself with only the best service-focused organizations like us to support his business and his client base. When not building his business, Jeff enjoys being physically active, especially outdoors, and is a proud father of 2 boys, Joshua and Benjamin. I have insider information that is where part of the name of his business comes from. So without further ado, welcome my man, Jeff, to the show. Jeff, how you doing today, bro?
I'm doing great. I appreciate you guys having me. First and foremost, happy birthday again, Kevin, to Tara. And it's a nice little, you're welcome, a nice little surprise to see earlier. And Zach, you are right. The J and the B are for Joshua and Benjamin. So well done. I appreciate that. Thank you guys so much for having me today. It's really great to be here with you.
For sure, man. For sure. And we're happy to have you. We go way back. I believe we met networking. I don't want to dismiss if someone introduced us. I don't quite recall because we've known each other really since before the pandemic or right around when it started is when we connected. Do you recall how and when?
Yeah, I think so. I think we met in a Wednesday morning Zoom group. So do you remember how when the pandemic started, you couldn't go meet people face to face? So there were all these Zoom networking groups that were popping up, and I think you and I might have met in John's group,
Mm,
if you recall. I think. I'm gonna have to go back and check because it's amazing when you look back and see where things began and how they began
right.
and how relationships formed, especially over the last couple of years. It's pretty wild.
It is, and we have had the chance to meet in person. And kudos to you because I'm very focused on my health journey. You have gotten. I remember when we first met, you were like, "Yeah, I'm going to get healthy, this, that, and the other." You did like the challenge. I forget the name of it. But then we met in person. I'm like, "Bro, you look like half the size of when I saw you on Zooms." So major props to you for that, for sure. But yeah, man, let's jump right into it. We really wanted to bring this topic to light because, like Kevin said, we've had clients ask us about payment processing and credit cards. I've been a user of some of the third-party apps, the Zooms, the Cash apps, the Zells, the Venmos. So we're going to jump into that stuff too. But I wanted to give people
Yep.
just a base of knowledge. So let's just kick it off with this question to you. How the heck does merchant services work? What is this world about? Like, just explain it from a very high level point of view.
Yeah. So to all the viewers out there, thank you for sitting through this because this can be a really dry. I'm going to try to make it engaging and somewhat fun. And I'll try to use examples because I've found that understanding things that have been made difficult to understand by design, using examples can typically make it a little bit more palatable. So as a business owner, we all need ways for our customers to pay us. And over the last 20 years, we've seen an incredible rise in the use of presenting a piece of plastic when you're buying something as opposed to handing over some paper or some coins. And essentially what's happening is when you are accepting credit cards as a business, you're essentially taking a small loan out, right? If you think about it, because the credit card is sending you the money the next business day, but the credit card company hasn't been paid from the customer. So because of that, that's why there are fees that are associated with you accepting a credit card for a good or service that you're putting out into the marketplace. So really simply, the idea is to figure out ways for your customers to pay you in a way that's easy for them and cost effective for you. And there's certain ways that you can go about looking at the cost effective portion for you as a business owner to help reduce some of those costs so you can keep more of your hard-earned money. And there's a variety of ways of accomplishing that. And each way is a little bit different. You'll see one at the gas station, right? If you go to a gas station, you see two prices, a cash price and a credit price. Essentially, if you're paying credit at a gas station, you're paying for the credit card fees. Essentially, that's what that is, right? If you pay by cash, you're getting a discount. And you guys will probably, if you haven't already, you'll start to see that in a lot of other retail establishments. I'm seeing it in certain restaurants. I'm seeing that when you're buying, working with different contractors, you can pay one price by credit card and one price by cash. And that's one way that businesses can go about helping to reduce their cost when a customer is choosing to pay by credit card. The last thing that I'll add on this, and then if you guys have any specific questions, I'm happy to jump in, is when I spend money on a credit card, I, as the consumer, get rewards because the credit card company says, yes, we want you to use our credit card because you're probably not going to pay off the balance. We're going to make a tremendous amount of money on the interest, and we're going to give you these perks in order to continue to do so. And you, as the business owner, are paying for those perks, those rewards in the form of paying a processing fee to accept that credit card. So maybe we should have started there, but that's how this industry works. Business will essentially will pay for the rewards that a consumer is using receiving when they're paying by credit card. So I'm going to stop there. Does that make sense? Are there any questions that you guys have coming from that?
Yeah, for sure. That makes perfect sense to me, and I guess I kind of understood it, but I appreciate that breakdown and giving it some more color. So when the contractor comes to the house and if I have the ability to pay cash or I guess pay by check, it's probably better to do that. I'll save a couple dollars. Now, I have found where some folks haven't really given me that discount or that option. Are they? And again, it's maybe I won't shout into these businesses because maybe it's shady. They're telling me the same price either way. Are they giving me a higher price by doing cash, like compared to what it would be for credit card? They're just not giving that break because they have to charge the merchant fees for the card. So when they're saying, "Oh, it's no difference whether you do card or credit," that means they're charging me more on the cash side because they have to be paying something, right?
I mean, it's possible. The accepting merchant fees, like paying the merchant fees, is a cost of doing business. So either you're going to pay the cost of doing business and take a reduction in margin, right, in what you're making, or you inflate all of your prices in order to cover that. And that's where the premise of the cash versus the credit price makes sense. You're not necessarily penalizing your cash-paying customers by raising prices for everything. You're essentially raising your prices to what you want to pay by credit card and offering them that discount if they're paying by cash. So every business does it a different way, Zach. Some of them just say, hey, it's the cost of doing business. We've been doing this for like 50 years. Others are like, hey, I don't want to pay this bill every month and have this money coming out of my account. So if you want to pay me this way, we're going to have to raise our prices, and I'll give you that discount if you're paying by cash. So I hope that answers your question.
Does. Got you. Now, one other thing I wanted to touch on in that space, we kind of covered this in terms of what the fees are for, but like, do the fees vary? Like, is it different for different merchant providers? Like, for example, if I were to use you to help me figure out what processing method I have, are you able to give me ones that have maybe a higher percentage or a lesser percentage, or is it all a flat same wherever you go?
Great loaded question. And I don't know how much time we have here, so I'm going to do my best to answer that simply. In credit card processing, there's essentially two sets of costs. There is what's called interchange, which is the fees that are assessed by Visa, MasterCard, Discover, and Amex, the card brands, and then the issuing banks, like the people who we get our credit cards from, right? So they have one set of fees, and those costs are standard for every credit card processor. So whether you're working with me, whether you're working with the bank, whether you're working with Air, those fees are all the same, right? The second piece that I'll mention about that is that within interchange, within that, each credit card is assigned a different cost. So if I use my debit card, I am paying a really low fee, like 0.05% and 22 cents a transaction. So for you contractors out there, if you can have your customers pay you by debit, like, you are going to be in a really good spot because there's a really low cost to accept those cards. On the reverse side, if you're paying with like a high-end MasterCard that comes with like a lot of rewards, as example, that particular card might have a base cost interchange of like 2.9% and a dime, right? So each card has a different cost that comes along with it. And there's a bunch of other variables that impact that, like whether the card's there or whether it's a purchase made online. If it is made online, whether you're adding the address information, like the zip, the CVV, and the street address. It's based on the industry type. A gas station, for example, has a cap on the amount they can pay on a specific type of transaction. So there's all these variables, and they're going to be the same for all the processors that are out there. That's the part that's the same. The second part is going to be the markup, right? And that's where we make money. That's our profits. And that's the part that can be managed with businesses. And that part is negotiable, and there are ways to help keep that down. That's also the part that you see rise over time. So when you hear people being like, my bill's going up, like my volume's not changing, and they're complaining about those things, it's because oftentimes the processor is increasing their profit on that particular account. And that's how that works. So Square will take all of that and package it into a nice, here's a flat percentage that you're paying. And it's easy to understand, oftentimes really profitable for Square, especially when they're in that, if they're taking a lot of debit cards, like that particular business. So in short, like, the main part of credit card processing is going to be the same for all of the different processors that you could potentially buy the service from. It's going to be the markup that's going to be negotiable and manageable. That's where we come in and have a conversation. And for my clients that I get to work with, I want them to know what the markup is and where to find it on their statements so that they have the comfort knowing that it's not going to change, and they can see that and see what we're saying is actually what they're receiving.
Got you. Understood. That leads me actually really into my next sort of question. you mentioned Square. Of course, people are very familiar with PayPal. I have used Stripe before. One, can you give me a little bit of detail as to the benefit of using one of these platforms? And then why would I use someone like yourself versus using one of these platforms?
Yeah, great question. And this is solely like a technology question, right? There's a lot of tech out there, especially with Stripe, where Stripe has struck a deal with specific software providers, certain build your own website integrations, certain shopping carts, where they're the only payment provider that allows for an integration. So Stripe has great APIs and great technology, and there's no doubt about that. So that's why a Stripe would make sense. And Square will do the same in terms of integrations. I don't necessarily, I think PayPal, my feeling is that people who are using PayPal are typically folks that have been using PayPal for a long time and just haven't necessarily migrated away from using PayPal. I don't know that I'm seeing a lot of new businesses start up looking to add PayPal as like a payment method. They'll typically go to Square, or they might even go these other routes that we'll chat about in a little bit for customers to pay them. But the reason why folks are going to use those is because there's easy technology and it's predictable in terms of costs because they're flat fees. So you can predict and understand that, hey, you're going to know that somewhere between 3 and 3.5% of your gross revenue is going to go to paying your credit card fees. And you can manage that particular portion of it and have that tax. So that's the broad answer as to why folks will use them: technology and simplicity in terms of their pricing.
Gotcha.
I told you I'd give you some examples before, and I'll share two with you. I was introduced to a client that does property management, and they were using Square and had been using Square for a really long time. And I got a call from them. I got introduced to them through a networking partner and got a call from them that their account was shut down. Without warning, they shut down. We're taking $1,500, $2,000 payments. That's their average. Square didn't necessarily like that. And because they didn't like that, they just shut the account down. So when you're working with a technology company like these, there is inherent risk if your business has any change or swings to how it operates. I've seen the same thing happen with Stripe with CBD clients, so businesses that are selling CBD. And this was like 2 years ago. It's normalized a little bit more now than it was. But if it's outside of the realms of what they are willing to work with and process for, they will oftentimes just shut you down with no warning. You know what? Let me take a step back. I said oftentimes, if it's within the realm of what they don't want to work with, that will be oftentimes. Outside of that, this does not happen a lot. But these are some of the things that you do need to just keep in the back of your mind. And it's a reason why you should have someone like myself in your network, whether we're working together or not. You should have someone that can help you navigate these things if they happen. So that way you're not stuck not allowing your customers to pay you. It's really hard to tell someone who's been paying you by credit card for a couple of years for $1,500, $2,000 that you're not taking that, you need cash because of something like this. So gotcha. I hope that covers it.
And to further that, so basically someone is looking to do, let's say, payments on their website, and instead of going to use Square or one of these technologies, they go to use you. What is that added benefit outside of just the human, like you have a person to talk to troubleshoot? Yeah. What other benefits come with using a merchant solution through a provider like yourself versus like that Stripe or Square?
Yeah, so I mean, you guys know if you're building a site on WordPress, WooCommerce is a really big shopping cart, right? And most of the platforms that I work with and that most folks work with have WooCommerce plugin that's really easy to connect to their shopping cart if they're going to be paying and putting something on their website. And that gives them the flexibility to have some management and oversight into any costs that are associated with online payments. So instead of having to be stuck into that you're paying this flat rate, those things are things that you can negotiate to be able to make sure that you're being able to keep more of your money. There's also some creative ways, like we were talking about with a cash and a credit price, that you can do the same thing online if you're able to add ACH into an option on your website for payment, where they're paying by credit card or by having something withdrawn directly from your bank account. So just being able to have those conversations, to be able to have a little bit of stability in terms of managing costs there are things that you don't get when you're working with those solutions.
Gotcha. Which also kind of leads me into this other point. We were talking earlier about the importance of service. And one thing I was curious about that is like troubleshooting. Like I have gone to places and they're like, oh, my credit card reader's down, or, they're having various issues. Like what is the service element of this space? And I assume there's a benefit of working with someone like yourself on that side as well.
Yeah, nobody wants to talk about it, but it's technology and things break, and they're going to break, right? Let's just start off with that. So when they break, here are your options, right? You can call a number and wait on hold or dial through a phone tree and get someone who's going to ask you to unplug it and to plug it back in and to do like those basic things. And then when they find out that that's not the issue, they're going to then take the next step and elevate you to a level 2 support person, and you're on hold again. And in the meantime, you're trying to run your business. Most of the folks that I'm working with are owner-operator in some capacity. They're either on site or they're doing things in their business where this is probably not the best use of their time. Mm-hmm. What would be a more smarter use of your time would be able to send a text message saying, Jeff, XYZ is happening on machine. Here's a picture of what it looks like, right? And then allow Jeff to handle it and allow me to work through it. And I could say, all right, your internet's down. Right? You don't need to call anyone. I can see right now your internet is not connecting. Is your phone connected to Wi-Fi? No. Okay, so it's the internet. It'll come back on. Thanks. It's that peace of mind. Other times it's, all right, the machine's fried. It's technology. I'm going to download a machine that I have at my house, head over, plug it in, and replace it so that way you're up and running. So that obviously works well when it's someone incommutable from where we live. But that's the primary, one of the primary differentiators in terms of how service operates. Lastly, when you have questions, because things are going to come up, just being able to get those answered, right? And they could be a quick text message, it can be an email, it can be a phone call, but those items do not appear to be a needle mover until you experience them and realize how valuable those things are.
Right. Gotcha. Thank you. And kind of a random question I have, which I don't know if this is in your space as much, but like, what about the security element of credit cards? Like, I know that's a big topic just in general. Every now and again, I see the videos of like, they tell you to watch out at certain ATMs because people hooked up something to read your numbers or whatever. But like, is there a security benefit to using a merchant provider versus just like the Stripe or some of those other platforms?
Yeah, great question. All businesses should strive to be what's called PCI DSS compliant. That stands for Payment Card Industry Data Security Standards. And it's essentially like telling the world that you're going to lengths to protect your customers' personal financial data. And some of those things are as easy as like going through a training to make sure that you're not writing a slam. And others are making sure that at your business within your network, you don't have open ports and ways for the outside world to access your data and your environment. So when I start working together with a customer, once we get them implemented and started, one of the first things we do is go through a survey that walks them through and talks to them about how to be PCI compliant. And then sometimes they need to have a scan done on their network. So these are things that are really important to do. In the past, people have just said, I just want to get through the survey so I don't have to pay a PCI non-compliance fee. And that's kind of how they look. But it's really important to go through those steps to make sure that the business is protected, because while the steps might be a little bit, might not be like a fun, easy thing to do that takes 5 minutes, this is going to be a half hour of time to an hour of time, depending on how much you need, what the environment looks like. It'd be well worth the headache not having to deal with the repercussions of not being compliant down the road. Right.
I would imagine that the alternative is way worse.
Yeah, it's funny. We've a new client just brought on a few weeks ago, and we're managing their Facebook ads and Google ads campaigns for them. So, we need a credit card so that they can pay us monthly for our management fees, and then also need to put the credit card into Google system and into Facebook system so they can pay for the ads. So I told the client, I need your credit card so I can put it into Google and Facebook. And he said, oh, I actually just spoke to your bookkeeper yesterday and gave her the information. I said, too bad, it's already gone. It's in our system, and credit card numbers, they all get encrypted. I said, security at its finest. It's a little inconvenient this time around because, you do wish that I had access to it. But, I said, we don't write down numbers. And once it's in the system, we I can see the last 4 digits, but that's it. I don't know your number. I don't know your CVV code. It's in there, And
Right.
so, that was the one time where, it kind of got in the way, but I said that's how you know the security's working, right? I said, I tried. I can't get your number.
Yeah, and Kevin, it's a smart thing to do, man. It's not like your business should not be put at risk by having access to all that data. There's very little good that can come from it, as opposed to having to say, I just need you to read it to me again for this new purpose. So that's a smart move. That's how you want to do it.
Yeah, and my team knows, we don't take credit cards over the phone. So we have a payment portal where you can submit your information. And in today's world, where unfortunately we do see fraudulent charges and everything, I don't ever want us to be blamed. That could we have possibly written down a number and possibly abused somebody's personal information, credit card info. I said, they want to pay over the phone, you give them the portal, you send, they send it in that way. So we never touch
exactly
it.
Right. Yep. And that's perfect. And Kevin, that's what you want to do. It protects them. It protects the business. Like with the amount of fraud that is running rampant out there, these are things that you can do to protect yourself and your customers. And I'm really happy that that's what you guys are doing, because it's the best.
Yeah. Practice. I mean, our job is to provide convenience for our customers, and we are creating an extra step for them. Sometimes it's not the convenient way to go, but if you explain the reasoning behind it, I would hope that they all, appreciate that we're taking those measures.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
Nice.
So before we get out here, one last thing I want to touch on, because there's a lot of different opinions on these. And you educated me. I didn't know that these platforms even had business accounts. But I want to touch on the do's and don'ts of these sort of platforms, the Cash Apps, the Venmos, the Zelles. Should you be taking your payments on these platforms? Should you not? And of course, you can touch on the whole business account side of it. But what's your thoughts towards using these sorts of things, Jeff?
Yeah, these are pieces of technology that make it easy for your customers to pay you. These are not, and I want to be really clear, these are not ways to avoid showing income, right? Because you took something through Cash App or through Venmo, like it's not like those have to be reported, right? So a lot of folks are like, just Venmo me or just Cash App me and I don't have to report it. Like that's not true. Both of these, all of these systems have business accounts that you can use that charge flat fee, which are going to be comparable to a lot of what you saw out there with other flat fees with Square, et cetera, for your customers to be able to pay you. And there's certain times where this makes sense, right? You're in a farmer's market environment, or you're doing something at school and you're raising money, or you're looking to have people easily pay you while it's with them, or they just might be in an environment where it's easier for them to pay you that way, and that's fine. But it is reportable income, and I would highly recommend not doing so on your personal Venmo or your personal Cash App. Set up a business account and do it that way. It's going to be the wisest way to go about doing so. I would personally, if it were me, lean more towards Venmo than I would Cash App, just with what's been being shared over the last couple weeks. And you can do your own research and certainly look up what's been happening with Cash App and Phantom accounts. But these are tools to supplement, in my opinion, not to be used to run your business in terms of how your customers pay you. So that's really the best thoughts that I can give on that. And I'm happy to chat with anyone in more detail if there's any questions around those payments.
Yeah, for sure. I was always thrown off a little bit because when I would use PayPal a lot, it would be like, are you sending as a gift, like with a friend? And I would like select that and it wouldn't charge any fees. But if I didn't select that, I would get a percentage. And then I never really saw any percentages when it came to Cash Apps. I was like, oh, I'm always going to use this or prefer to use this platform over PayPal. But I do, like, anytime I am sending money, if it is business related or if I'm receiving money, I do log it. Like I do report that stuff, when I'm getting, payments. So like it's a little tricky because the app doesn't really provide assistance in doing that. So it's like you really have to have your own bookkeeping outside of that to manage it, which is a little bit of a headache. Kevin, any thoughts towards the Cash App Venmo world of payments?
Yeah, and and my thoughts today are a little different than what I would have said a few months ago. I mean, these platforms are really just starting to establish their business presence. When you think about PayPal was around first, right? PayPal came before Cash App. It came before Venmo did. And the model that PayPal took, and the reason that it asks that questions, are you paying for goods or services, or are you paying for, are you sending it to a friend? Their model was, let's do those, free transactions for a while, person to person, individual to individual, make this platform really popular, and then open it up to the business community. And businesses are going to want to, allow for PayPal payments because so many people use PayPal, right? It's so popular. They're going to want it. So, and that's where they want to make their money. Venmo is now doing the same thing. Kevin can send Zach money for free, person to person. But if I want to make a payment to a business, the business, if they're doing it legally, needs to have a business Venmo account, not a personal business account. And that business account is going to be paying a credit card fee when they accept my payment, just like going through a merchant service, just like going through PayPal. So it's really on the business to make sure that they're doing it legally and saying, we are a business, we're not an individual, and they're going to have to pay those fees that businesses are supposed to be paying.
Gotcha. Yeah, and let's also consider, and really great point, let's also consider these peer-to-peer network. There's not a lot of tremendous amount of oversight or ability to protect your payments once it's been sent, like there is by paying by credit card. Once it's sent, right? If it happens to be sent and you're paying through it with a credit card, that's one thing. But if you're using your balance or the money that's in there, there's very little oversight or ability to manage that if it's sent to the wrong person or the wrong amount is sent. So that's what happens in these peer-to-peer type of environments where like Cash App.
Gotcha. This has been fantastic. I'm glad you were able to come and drop some knowledge on us, Jeff. Before we head out of here, I do have your social media running along the bottom, but can you give folks any more insights into how to reach you or connect with you should they have some merchant solution questions?
Yeah, I appreciate that. Best way to get a hold of me is through social. You can reach me, JMJB Payments, on Facebook and Instagram, Jeff Harris, JMJB Payments, on LinkedIn. My email is also JH, my first initial of my first and last name, at jmjbmerchantsolutions.com. I made that extra long so it was easy to type. But you can also shoot me an email there, and happy to chat with you guys and answer any questions. Do not feel like we have to engage in a business relationship. If you have questions, happy to be a resource to anyone that comes through here. And I appreciate you guys having me on today.
For sure. I'm glad you didn't spell out your kids' names in your website. That would have been a little extreme. So JMJB, we can handle that. Folks, quick heads up before we get out of here. We are still looking for anyone who wants to be a guest on upcoming episodes of Thursday Thoughts. So if you'd like to join us and kind of share your knowledge with our business community, just shoot us an email at energy@navitasmarketing.com, and we'd be happy to chat with you and bring you on. Mr. Homer, any parting words for our guests on this Draft Thursday?
Yeah, I mean, one thing that we, didn't mention about, why should a company collect credit card payments is just the convenience of, from the buyer's perspective, how easy it is to send money from, possibly, halfway around the world. But there actually is one country who does not accept cash or credit cards. Do you know what that country is? It is the Czech Republic.
I hate you. I hate you a lot. Jeff, don't laugh at his jokes. He does what he can. Shout out to the Eagles. I'm showing off my Brandon Graham rookie card just because it's draft day. So let's go Birds. Thank you again, Jeff.
Go Sixers next week.
Go everybody. Phillies, get it together. Like I want to talk about y'all more. Get it together. And yeah, we'll see y'all soon with another Thursday Thoughts. Everyone have a lovely rest of your day. Peace.